games Friday at home against Pittsburgh and at Madison Square Garden against the Rangers. We have a preview of both games, and we discuss what this team needs to do to get back on track. All of that and more coming on today's weekend episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Friday or weekend edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, that you got to spend it with friends and family and did it safely. Hard to believe we are already closing in on the end of November, beginning of December, Hanukkah, Christmas right around the corner. Time really does fly, even right now while the Islanders are not having fun. But hopefully this team will find a way to get back on track, and part of that is going to be getting a lot of people healthy again. Today's episode is brought to you by Stat Hero. Stat Hero is the first of its kind daily fantasy sports platform where it's you versus the house in head-to-head fantasy matchups. Winner take all. Sign up for free right now at stathero.com/hockey and use the promo code hockey for a 100% deposit match. Also want to thank everybody for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. And that does, by the way, include YouTube. So if you want to watch this episode instead of just listening to it, check us out. Search for Locked On Islanders on YouTube, and you'll get to see all of our episodes up there Monday through Friday, and all the back episodes going back at least a couple of months up there on YouTube. So if you missed one, check it out. If you've got something Islanders related on your mind, you have a question, a comment, a topic you'd like us to talk about, feel free to email the show. The email address is lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we talk about whatever it is that's on your mind. You could also follow the show on Twitter at LockedOnIsles. And you could follow me, Gil Martin, on Twitter at Ice Wars, NYRVSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings. And I am also live tweeting during almost every Islanders home and road game. So, look, we got a lot to get to on today's show, but the first thing I wanted to mention, and this is, again, something to remind people of. A lot of people complaining, the Islanders shouldn't be playing right now. And as I mentioned on the show Thursday, and yes, I did do a Thanksgiving episode, but as I mentioned on the show Thursday, they probably shouldn't be playing, but I'm not surprised that they are. And no question, this team is pressing. So many guys are trying to do too much. And the one thing that happens when you are playing with a roster that is made up of roughly half AHL players, or players who started the season down in the minors, guys try to do too much, and they're pressing. And I don't understand, I do understand why that happens, but, some of the regulars really need to step up. Guys like Zach Parise, 16 games, he's yet to put the puck in the back of the net. Casey Cizikas has played in 15 games. He doesn't have any goals. Matt Martin, no goals in 14 games. J.G. Pageau, 1 goal in 15 games. Kyle Palmieri, 1 goal in 16 games. When you've got regular players who, look, you don't expect Casey Cizikas to have 8 goals in 15 games, but none. Matt Martin, maybe he should have 1 or 2, but none. Kyle Palmieri started as a top 6 forward. He's got to have more than 1 goal. J.G. Pageau, a regular 20-goal scorer in this league, got to have more than 1 goal in 15 games. And then these guys are all slumping, and obviously with all the regulars out of the lineup, that is understandable. But look, Anthony Beauvillier, no goals in his last 8 games. Oliver Wahlstrom, 1 goal in his last 8, no goals in his last 8 games. Oliver Wahlstrom, not scoring in his last 8, and Matthew Barzal, 1 goal in his last 10. Barzy, in particular, definitely trying to do too much, pushing, skating around, trying to create plays where they aren't. And I understand it, but they've got to stop it. When things break down the way they have for the Islanders so far, what you really need to do is get back to basics, and this team isn't doing it. And here's another thing that I question. The Islanders, before the game against the Rangers, called up Anatoly Golishev, and yet Golishev was a healthy scratch. I don't know if there was a reason for the fact, but to me, when your team has 7 goals total now, or in its last 7 games, or going into the game against the Rangers on Wednesday, 6 goals in its last 6 games, putting a guy like Golishev in the lineup, a guy who can put the puck in the net, who is a proven professional, albeit in the KHL rather than in the NHL. But look, Golishev may not be adjusted fully to the North American smaller rinks and the style of play here. But if you're looking for offense, and Lord knows this team needs offense right now, putting Anatoly Golishev in the lineup rather than, some of the other guys, Otto Koivula, Andy Andreoff, not that there's anything wrong with those guys, but if given the choice, if you're trying to create offense, even, even though it was Andreoff who scored the only goal for the Islanders and Koivula had an assist, Golishev gives you more offensively. And if you have the regulars playing with a guy like Golishev, who they know can put the puck in the net, who can create offensive chances, that means they'll probably press just a little bit less. Defensively, again, 5 AHL caliber players and Scott Mayfield out there on the ice. And, most of the guys who played, they didn't play badly. Yeah, Thomas Hickey had a couple of mistakes. No question about that. Ledoux had a couple of mistakes that, came back to bite him. Robin Salo struggled more against the Rangers than he did in the first 2 games. But you expect some of these things. But the problem is, when you're not scoring and you don't have the ability to recover from these mistakes, they really come back and bite you in the rear end. And the Islanders played in the first period solid hockey. I wouldn't say great hockey, but solid hockey. And here's what Barry Trotz said. The young guys are doing a really good job. There's going to be some mistakes. Can you hang with the big boys? That's what we're finding out. And, this is almost like taking someone who has, had a few swim lessons and dumping them in the ocean and saying, let me see if you can swim. Or putting them in a race with some, experienced quality swimmers and saying, okay, can you win the race? It isn't easy. But at the same time, you may find a player or two out of these guys who may be able to contribute. And to me, Golishev is one of the players who probably can make a contribution based on his experience and his skill. I think Scott Mayfield put it well here after the loss to the Rangers on Wednesday. The biggest thing is just to keep it simple and not try to do too much. You just have to dig deep. You can only control certain things, work ethic, attitude, stuff like that. And that's what we have to focus on. Very well said by Scotty Mayfield, and hopefully this team will get to do it. And, the upsetting thing about the 7-game losing streak, all the games have been lost by 3 goals or more. None of them even close, no overtime losses, no shootout losses. These games, a couple of them, there were some empty net goals at the end, but overall, the Islanders have not been all that close, and the special teams continue to haunt them. We've got a lot more to discuss on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. We will preview tonight's game at home against Pittsburgh, Sunday's game at Madison Square Garden against the Rangers. That plus our Islanders birthday today and a lot more still to come on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. This episode is brought to you by Stat Hero. No one plays daily fantasy sports to lose. Winning feels so much better. But traditional fantasy sports are a long-term losing proposition because you never know who or what you're up against. Stat Hero is the first of its kind daily fantasy sports platform where it's you versus the house in a head-to-head fantasy matchup, winner take all. And here's the crazy part. Stat Hero shows you their lineups before you play, and you handpick the team that you want to face one-on-one. This never-before-seen innovation of fantasy sports and sports betting hybrid has Stat Hero players clocking odds that are over 4 times better. Why? Because you don't have to compete against thousands of experts or unknowns. Stat Hero puts you in control of your fate. With Stat Hero, you are in control of the stakes. You decide how much you're going to play for, and Stat Hero has no choice but to take it because they're daring you to beat them. Stat Hero head-to-head is what daily fantasy should be, one-on-one. Sign up for free right now at stathero.com/hockey and use the promo code hockey for a 100% deposit match. That's stathero.com/hockey. Use promo code hockey for a 100% match. stathero.com/hockey. Promo code hockey. Terms and conditions apply. So 2 games coming up for the Islanders. This one tonight at the UBS Arena against the Penguins, and Sunday at Madison against the Rangers. And look, here is the situation. Pittsburgh has been dealing with injuries all season. They are middle of the pack, 13th in the 32-team league in goals scored. But now they have more healthy players back in the lineup, so that those numbers should be improving. And then they are 10th in the league in goals against. They're getting some good goaltending. And yeah, by the way, Pittsburgh, they've won 4 in a row, including back-to-back shutout wins in Montreal and in Toronto, and then wins over Winnipeg on the road and against Vancouver at home. And in those 4 games that they've won, they've given up a grand total of just 2 goals. Sidney Crosby, not off to a great start. He's played 7 games, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points, -3. But Jake Guentzel and Rodriguez have been the big scorers so far. Guentzel leads the team with 8 goals and 16 points. Rodriguez has 7 goals and 14 points. And as always, Islander fans very familiar with Chris Letang. He leads the team with 10 assists. And, you know, the one thing that is different perhaps this year, as far as the Penguins are concerned, they are playing much better defense, and they're getting very strong goaltending from Tristan Jarry, who is 9-4-3, 2 shutouts. But listen to these numbers: a 2.03 goals against average and a 933 save percentage. We'll look at the line combination for the Pens as of the top line with Guentzel and Ryan right side of him. Jeff Carter is the second line center. Zucker and Kasperi Kapanen are on his wings. Teddy Bluger, the same pivot with Zach Aston Reese flanking him, and Evan Rodriguez, the 4th line center with Danton Heinen and Dominic Simon on his wings. Brian Dumoulin and Chris Letang are the for the Pens, followed by John Marino and Harry and Casey are one thing to look at. The bode well on special power play, 30th in the league. 0.1 rate, but their penalty kill one in the league. They kill off 89.8% of opposing teams. With the Islanders struggling on the power play, that means it will not be easy for this Islanders team to get their power play going against the Penguins. Islanders do need to get pressure and be shocked, quite honestly. Would not be shocked if who have a game at home Saturday against Montreal. The way the Islanders are playing, it wouldn't shock me if they gets the start against the Islanders in this game on Friday night tonight. So we'll have to keep an eye on that situation. But if the Penguins, I'm minding that day. The Rangers will be on the board to Madison Square Garden, and the Rangers right just behind the Capitals can play with the game in hand on at the Boston Bruins tonight before the Rangers on Sunday. They will have another game, but they've won 3 out of their. The Rangers can continue their win. Is the big for the Rangers offensively. We saw it Wednesday night. Chris Kreider, 15 goals in 19 games. And then Artemi Panarin and Adam Fox tied for the team lead with 19 points. Both of them have 4 goals and 15 assists. But Kreider just been killing right now. And the Islanders are going to have a way to slow him down, especially in front. You look at the line combination now for the New York Rangers, and the Islanders away just easy. But you know, when we saw the game on Wednesday for the whole period, the Islanders were able to stay with the Rangers, and they were able to keep it to a 0-0 tie after one period. And only when starting taking did they get a hand, and the Rangers play kind of cashed in. Top line for the Rangers has been a Jad, centering Kreider, Okako, Ryan Strome, Island, and Bryden Hunt on either side of him. Eves giving that physical element to the game of fourth. Adam Fox are the top pairing. That's Keanu Miller. Cuba, they set goal to you. Easter like get IR now for the Rangers. Spending really hurt the Islanders first team with the Rangers. Monday, 12th in the league, the penalty kill 20th. Realistically, is that the Islanders power play you still call it a power play has been absolutely dreadful, and it just, again, get back to basics and find a way. Because power last in the league on the power play, and in the middle on the PK, currently 16th. So we'll be back, obviously, on Monday. We'll have key takeaways. I'll be live tweeting during them both. We've got more to come on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Day of the game on this episode of the Lockers. Episode is brought to you by Bet on, we all know what that means. Football goes better with football than turkey and betting. Bet online as you cover all season, more props, odds, and lines than ever before. And Bet Online remains your number one spot for all the sports action this Thanksgiving. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today. Receive your 50% welcome bonus with the pro code Locked On. And again, for listening to the Locked On Islanders podcast, betonline.ag will give you free money, a 50% welcome bonus just for listening to this podcast. And use that promo code Locked On. And look, it's not just football. BetOnline has pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, and even your favorite Vegas casino games. So don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, we're stuffed with deals this Thanksgiving. Time now of the day, and we're going to go to a goalie Islanders for a couple of years, but he really was a great addition to this team. I'm talking as good as his 49th birthday is today. The piece written by the Red Wings in the third round 91 entry draft, made his NHL debut with the Wings in 93-94, joined the Islanders in the 2001-2002 season, and stayed with the team until the deadline of the 2002-03 season. The Islanders made the playoffs in large part because of Osgood, his full year there, and then them competitive in the second year. We're going to go back and love Chris Osgood every game. April 23rd, Eastern Conference final playoff game at the Coliseum. The Maple Leafs came 2-0 the standings. That game ended up getting way Chris Osgood, the goaltender. Islanders Curtis Joseph start for the Maple Leafs in what would turn out to be a game, and it was the getting on the board first. Now, came down to me. It was a must game, and then Alexander Mobility puts on the board. Period. His playoffs from Thomas Caberlet. Islanders trailing 1-0, but get back into the game on the power. Wade Belloc, a double minor, one for holding, one for unsportsmanlike conduct. Mark Parrish cashes in on the man advantage. His first. Roman Hammerlick and with the 34-1-1, and in the second period with Robert Wright in the box for obstruction tripping. Brad Isbister gets a power play goal, his first in the playoffs, from Adrian Aucoin and Tchaikovsky at 6:01. That put the Islanders ahead for the time 2-1. Then Michael his first from Jason Blake at 18:33. 3-1 Islanders, and then the power play gets busy again with Gary Vall box for hooking. Parrish, his second, also on the power play. Johnson and Adrian Aucoin with the helpers at 19-19, 4-1 Isles after 40 minutes in the third. The power play gets to work yet again. Darcy Tucker off for closing his hand on the puck. Sean Bates, his first of the playoffs from Alexei Yashin, makes it 5-1 Islanders. And then Dave Scatcher closes out the scoring just 14 seconds later. His first from Brad Isbister. Islanders get back into the series, one win, and that was due to keep the Islanders in the game in the series and really gave the momentum back. 34 saves and 35 shots for Chris Osgood. Meanwhile, Chris Joseph pulled late in the game for the Islanders. So again, Chris Osgood, Islanders' birthday of the day after he went to the Blues, then back Wings, won some Stanley Cup. Retired after the 2010 season, a career goals against average of 2.49, a 903 percentage in 744 career NHL games, and he won 401 games in his career. Happy birthday, many happy Chris Osgood. He, Islanders birthday of the day. Don't forget, we will be back on Monday with key takeaways, both of this weekend's games, and a look ahead. Hopefully some of the injured and COVID reserve Islanders will start to come back. Hopefully Josh Bailey would be the first one who should be eligible, and maybe he'll be back for one of these two games, and we'll keep you up to date on Twitter with regard to that. Thanks again for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets. It's your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets is hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from handicapping expert Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. That does it for us today. Great, everybody. Stay safe. Let's go.